Hi everyone. I welcome you to this discussion where we want to talk about the ACCA Diploma IFRS examination format. Friends, you must already be aware of it that the examination is completely an online examination, and you can see at the back side of mine is the ACCA's website. What I would like to do is spend some time together and walk us through with how does my examination look like and what kind of expectation I should have, because I will be typing my answers. I will be, putting some numbers online using an Excel sheet or a Word document and stuff like that. Okay. The objective of this particular discussion with all of us is to make ourselves absolutely comfortable. Make ourselves absolutely comfortable with the examination structure, the examination template, and do a lot of practice questions online so that we don't find it surprising when we are actually writing our examination, or I would say typing our examination on the examination day. Now, you may be aware of it that since December 2020, and it's been a few years already since ACCA was looking to bring all its examinations through an online format, and it has successfully achieved it by now. Okay, so not taking much of your time on discussing the background around it, I would simply like to jump on to how does my examination give me the look and feel of what should I expect and how do I write my exams. That's something that I want to do in this particular discussion. Okay, so this is my ACCA Global's website. That's what it is, accglobal.com. I can simply go to the home page and let's say, go at the end and click on the past exam papers. My past exam papers would ask me what qualification do I want to kind of check from, let's say, examination perspective. I'm selecting DIP IFR, okay, and I would select this exam DIP IFR, okay. Now, it would give me or bring me to this particular page where it says that my syllabus, examination documents, examination team guidance, that's something that we in any case cover when we are completing our course, as it's an ongoing sessions already taking place. I would go to the CBE specimen exam. The CBE specimen exam is nothing else but computer based examination. Okay, the CBE examination, as I tried to mention, that from December 2020 the CBE was introduced, and that's what you are looking at, writing your examination at your home using your laptop, using your desktop. You would be able to attempt this examination while at the comfort of your place. Okay. So when I look at the CBE examination, I click on this and it would redirect me to another website. Okay. So basically, ACCA has tied up with the Pearson. So Pearson is basically an examination administration, company, and it supports a lot of other qualifications. Of course, ACCA diploma happens to be one such qualification. Okay. So what it would do, imagine yourself, you are actually writing your examination online month of June, in the month of December, as the case may be. Okay, how does it look like? It would give you some kind of instructions. Okay, now of course this is something which is a specimen only, so it categorically mentions that there's no time limit in this particular specimen examination, but of course your live exam would be timed, which is 3 hours and 15 minutes, roughly 190, I mean roughly 200 minutes, or you know a little more than, of course, 3 hours there, right? So these are the broader instructions. It talks about, of course, how it would be appearing when you write your final examination there. Okay. If I go to this next, it brings me to another page where it says that there are general instructions. Okay. In the live examination, you are supposed to, let's say, complete or go through some instructions, and after 10 minutes of time, the examination would automatically begin there. So that is what is your recorded time of that 195 minutes, 3 hours and 50 minutes times starts happening. Okay, so we don't have to really worry about it. It broadly gives you the context. That's something we have discussed about it, that this examination is essentially 4 questions of 25 marks each. The first question is from consolidation or the group accounting, and the rest 3 questions could be from various topics. Okay, that's something which is trying to say what you're supposed to do as you see through when you go through these instructions. You're supposed to read them all. It does give you some perspective of to be able to highlight something, to be able to select or strike through something. When we go to the questions, actually, we should be able to see them very, very comfortably. I'm just moving on to the next instruction, but just one thing that you want to remember, I do have a control C and control V options as well, right? If I need to use some perspective, I should be able to use them in my examination. Okay, I'll move to the next instruction, which actually tells me how do I use those exhibits, how do I use my windows from the examination standpoint, how do I really walk through those. And obviously, when we jump onto the the questions, we can do that. I have a choice. Importantly, I have a choice to select any questions first. Okay, out of the 4 questions, I can decide to do the first question first, or the second, or the third, or the fourth, as the case may be. But at the same time, I may want to come back to the question later if I want to. The best part about the examination is I do not have to save anything. It saves everything on its own. Okay, so I don't have to really keep on reminding myself that whether my answers are being saved somewhere or not, but that we'll see any which ways. Okay, we can revisit the questions as I already said. Okay, and I can revisit, I can just flag for review if I want to do something, but that's something broadly what is there. Now, what you want to remember here, as I tried to mention, if I'm not reading the entire screen, my examination will not allow me to go farther. It expects me to read all those instructions completely. Sorry about that. I'll come back here. There we go. I have to read them all entirely. Of course, my examination does give me an option to use a calculator, which suggests to me that I'm not allowed to use my own calculator while writing my examination. Okay. Now, the easy part is because I'm using Excel's calculations also, and Excel format is or Excel template is available with me. I don't have to necessarily use the scientific calculator or the calculator given by the system. And they are not very detailed calculations I'm supposed to do. I'm not doing any calculations to do with the integration, differentiation, or any exponentials in general. I can use an Excel sheet which serves that purpose entirely for my examination as well. Okay. Moving forward, it just talks about something like a scratch pad available. I don't have to again worry about it because I do have a comfort of, let's say, using the Word document or the text document where I can obviously type my answers any which ways, right? But these are all the options given to me. I can use them at my discretion. Finally, I can review my answers and I can look at it. And once I'm comfortable, once I'm absolutely happy that yes, I'm done with my examination, I can very comfortably end my examination. Now, bear it in mind, if you don't end your examination and the 3 hours, 15 minutes get over, your examination will be automatically submitted. Okay. A couple of small things that you want to also remember while we obviously go through the examination discussion. It can happen, and it does happen, that well, you need an uninterrupted supply of or uninterrupted internet supply, so that while you're writing the examination there is no uh, you know stoppage of that, just in case there is a power failure for some reason. You can very well reach out to the ACCA, because somebody would be administering the examination at a real time basis. Somebody is proctoring you, somebody is really looking at you when you are writing that particular examination there. So in case of any challenges that you face during the examination, yes, it is possible to be able to connect with the ACCA concerned team, who is obviously connected with you when you are actually writing your examination at that point in time, right? So these are more instructions to do with what all you need to remember when you are getting ready for the examination. You would need, let's say, an isolated room. You would need something to do with the no distractions. There should not be anybody coming in, or going outside, so that can result into your examination cancellation as well. But these are more of the administration side of it. My focus here is to talk about what do you expect to see on the examination date at your examination window. That's something that I'm trying to kind of focus upon. So when I move ahead, This is something which is there. It talks about 4 questions of 25 marks each. All questions are compulsory. You want to again remind yourself that your examination offers you step marking. So whatever you're doing correctly gives you some marks. So you need to be very, very comfortable about it, that it can be a very scoring examination, provided, of course, you know the concept at that point in time. Okay. Now, this comes to my next window, which says click next to start your exam. And this is what I would expect to see. It says, if you're ready to begin your exam, please click yes. Let's do that. Okay. This is what I expect when I click on, ready to write my examination. This is my first window, as you would observe. Okay. It tells me that this is my specimen examination, so I don't have to worry about it. I'm looking at the first question out of my 4 questions there. Okay. I can read through the instructions. This is the basic information given to me. It says that Alpha, a parent company with a subsidiary Beta, is preparing its group financial statements at 30th September cross 7. So it's talking about my reporting date here. The following exhibits are available on the left hand side of the screen, which says that it talks about the information of the draft balance sheet of Alpha and Beta, which is given here. You can see obviously later. Alpha's investments, what investments has Alpha made into Beta or some other entities probably. There are some intra-group trading. There are some transactions between Alpha and Beta. And there is something to do with share-based payments. Okay. Just a reminder, as we discuss while we go through the course, that your first question, which is even though necessarily a group accounting question, okay, from the consolidated financial statements, you do expect some transactions or some adjustments which might be coming from some other topics as well, right? Like in this example, we have share-based payments. It could be something from financial instruments, very commonly tested, something on the employee benefits, specifically to do with the defined benefits, very commonly expected. It could be from property, plant and equipment or some other topics also, right? So even though my first question is necessarily a group accounting question, do expect some adjustments from other topics as well. That would always tell me that I need to be absolutely comfortable with all the topics expected to be covered by my examination. Okay. Now, this is still a reading portion. I'm not really writing anything there. But before I jump on to the requirements and responses, what I want you to, let's say, have a look at is something to do with the navigator. Okay. You see this navigator window. It tells me I'm looking at my series of questions, looking at my first question, second question, third question, fourth question. The first question is not yet attempted, so obviously we need to be starting doing that. The second, third, fourth is yet to be seen. That's what we have obviously, started looking at it. Now, I can click on next, okay? And this is where my second question starts to appear, as you would see, okay? Now, I've just done a flag for review, but I can remove that as well, doesn't matter. My options, when I look at my content, we talked about the calculator, but it's okay to not use it because I may not be required to do that. We'll see some, information around that. I can use some highlighting options. I can use some scratch pad if I want to. They're all options available with me. I may want to do that, so that discretion is available. Of course, I can type something if I need to, okay? But I'm not using it. Normally, in my examination, I may not be required to use it, right? I have sufficient tools with me when I go back and, let's say, attempt my questions. By the way, as I told you, this is my second question. I want to come back to my previous window where it would give me my first question there, okay? When I say I'm looking at this information, it tells me there is a draft balance sheet of Alpha and Beta, and this is how it looks like as a template, okay? This template would appear like this, and I do have some options to expand these windows, but this is where I would expect you to be absolutely comfortable, right? Preferably take a mouse along with you. Obviously, when you're using a desktop, mouse is necessary, but even when using a laptop, preferably take a mouse, because scrolling through these windows or jumping between different windows can be challenging there. Okay, so just be very, very mindful about it when you do that. When you look at this question, it tells you, okay, I can obviously kind of reduce the size here. But when you look at this question, it gives you the entire information that there is something to do with my property, plant, and equipment. Okay, so I can I just clicked on this. I'm looking at all this information. This is precisely the balance sheet of the two entities. Okay, it tells me within the property, plant, and equipment, if I just expand it a bit, within property, plant, and equipment, there is some exhibit 2 information given. Now, which tells me, by the way, I need to also check there could be some adjustments as a part of my exhibit number 2. Okay, and as you would observe here, when you look at this information, and this is where I said that a use of a mouse is preferred because these windows would overlap. I don't have a lot of flexibility to be able to use one window at a time. Okay, so I need to really kind of get aligned with all this stuff as when I go through. Okay, so if I really come back to the exhibit 2, although my balance sheet numbers were not yet looked upon, but my exhibit 2 would tell me there's an investment in beta, etc., and then it talks about some information alongside the information relating to the assets and liabilities. Okay, as my original section said that my property, plant, and equipment also has some adjustments as a part of exhibit 2. This is what I'm able to see. There's some adjustment on the freehold land or plant and equipment and stuff like that. So they're all going to be significant information to be able to attempt from my examination standpoint, right? But these are all my parts of the question only. So this is my balance sheet. You just saw that. This is my information with respect to the Alpha's investment, something to do with the intra-group trading. Okay, it did mention that there's something around that. It says Alpha provides Beta with management services and levies a monthly charge, etc. On 29th of September, etc. This is all being done. This is basically a payment in transit. So that's a typical adjustment from my intra-group trading section any which ways. Okay. Finally, it talks about something which is not exactly a group adjustment, but it is to do with share-based payment topic. It says on 1st of October 5, Alpha granted 200 senior managers with all that stuff, something to do with my equity settled share-based payments. I wouldn't again worry about it. My point that I wanted to really highlight here is that I need to look at, first of all, my requirement, although as far as my first question is concerned, the requirement is very well known. The requirement is simple. If it's a balance sheet question, I'm supposed to prepare a group or a consolidated balance sheet as on the reporting date. Okay. If it's a P&L question or an income statement question, naturally the requirement is to prepare the consolidated income statement for the year ended with that particular reporting. Right? That's what we do. What is important to follow is basically how do I create my responses. This is where you need to be absolutely comfortable about how do you really understand how to write your answers. And this is where you need to be aligned here. I'm just expanding it a bit and I'm just zooming out it a little bit so that we can probably write more stuff here. Okay. It won't allow me to go a little beyond this window, so I have to probably expand this size. Okay. When I start this, let me do one thing. Let me zoom it again. Okay. When I start this, I probably might be saying my working number 1 is relationship between entities. Okay. Now, if I say I cross this, I'll just close that window. Okay. What you want to remember that whatever you typed stays there. It doesn't really go away. So you don't have anything to save at any point in time. It's getting saved automatically. Okay. Say for the sake of argument, because this is the relationship which is more of a concept being placed, I'm looking at my acquisition date, reporting date, and let's say percentage holding. Okay. I would have read my question any which ways by now, but let's still have a look at it. I'm given my exhibit 2, so I think I need to go to my question again, and this is where the struggle is. Okay. I know my reporting date is 30th September cross 7. Okay. If I look at Alpha's investment, it tells me on 1st of October cross 4. Okay. On 1st of October cross 4, Alpha acquired 90 million shares, right? I'm just taking that information and I want to use that information in my spreadsheet. So I'm looking at my acquisition date, which is 1st of October cross 4. Okay. And this is 30th of September cross 7. And it could be any number. Let's say for the sake of argument, it is 80%. Okay. So I've just tried to create one small working. I do not have to really build any beautification to these numbers. I can keep it as is. There's no point spending time on where you do not get marks, right? Just keep it simple, just keep it straightforward and move ahead with that. Okay. The other working that I would normally have in this case is fair value adjustments. And the reason I'm trying to kind of spend a couple of minutes talking about these adjustments in particular, to know what all can we do as far as performing calculations are concerned. So if I say that fair value adjustments, let's say I'm looking at particulars, carrying amount, fair value, differences. Okay. Now, my exhibit 2 did tell me that there are some adjustments to be done. Okay. We were reading it through a little bit. It says that the directors of Alpha carried out a fair value exercise to measure the identifiable assets and liabilities of Beta as on 1st of October cross 4, right? Freehold land with a carrying value of 150 million has an estimated fair value of 210. Okay. Plant and equipment with a carrying value of 121 with a fair value of 145. A brand name has a value of 25 million, but it's an internally generated brand, so we don't have to worry about that. So when I say I've got this information, okay, freehold land, plant and equipment, and then I have my brand name. Okay, so I'll just try to put it across. Freehold land, plant and equipment, and brand name. Okay, I'm given these numbers as carrying amount of 150 and a fair value of 210 million. Now, before I really start writing those numbers, what you want to also remind yourself is when you look at your balance sheet, the draft SOFP, all these numbers are in thousands of dollars. Okay. Even if it is not explicitly mentioned by the examiner, even if it's not categorically stated by the examiner, try to use all your numbers or try to put all your numbers in the same denomination, which is thousands of dollars. Although your examination would really say that, but sometimes it may not say it, especially in case of your second, third, and fourth question. Please be very comfortable using this denomination in thousands of dollars, because that will avoid any confusion or creation of any decimal values or stuff like that. Okay. So when I do this, I'm given it's in thousands of dollars. I come back to my spreadsheet where I'm writing my answers. My carrying value of the freehold land, I have to really go back there. This is the whole problem with this, attempting this kind of a question. Okay, so I can just close this probably. Okay, I'm looking these two numbers together. Okay, so let's do one thing, and this is where you need the mouse very, very, desperately. Okay, when I look at this, here we go. 150,210. So this becomes 150,000, 210,000, and of course I can say this minus this. The bare minimum calculations that I can do using an Excel sheet is plus and minus, and I can just bring them on as is. Okay, and I can actually change these into the numbers. I can do a customization in terms of looking at a number using a decimal place of 0 and doing a separator of, let's say, 1000. Okay, so I've got this number, which is 150, 210, and 60. I go back to my question because I have to just remind myself what all other numbers were. So this is to be the freehold land. Plant and equipment has 121 and 145 and brand is 25. So 121 and 145. So this is 121, 145. This is Control C. Copy. I can of course paste values. Okay. And this is given to me as 0 and this is 25,000. All right. Now here I can apply a sum of these three. I would need this information for, let's say, for calculation of my goodwill. So I can really use that comfortably here, right? And again, as I said that these information are saved automatically. So if I close that window and I open that again, it would still give me what I was looking for. Okay. Eventually, when I'm done with this entire working, it could be a part of a lot of workings and then the final balance sheet, like in this particular example. You want to remember that very, very importantly. In your examination, as I was trying to mention, it's a step-based step marking being done. Your workings would comprise of around 18 to 19 marks out of the 25 marks. So please be very comfortable that you are aligned with all the workings, and these are very standard workings. As we go through the sessions and discuss about the group accounting, these are very standard workings that we need to know, and it's a complete, clear format or the way we should be kind of doing these workings anyway, right? So that's one comfort I want to give you. If you're doing your workings very, very well, you have almost cleared your examination already. Your final examination does not, or final answer does not really carry a lot of weightage from the mark standpoint. Just be comfortable around that part. Okay. So accordingly, this particular question, as you see, as a part of your answers would be completed, and this is how you would be obviously required to complete that part. Okay. Which also means, by the way, as I told you about the workings, it can so happen. Okay. Shouldn't happen though, but it can so happen that your balance sheet does not match your total assets versus total liabilities and equities. They do not reconcile. Okay. Of course, you will be penalized for that, right? But will the examiner not give you the credit for all the workings that you have done? The answer is, of course, they will do that. Which also means, by the way, in theory, if I'm doing those workings entirely and I completely miss to prepare my balance sheet, I should still expect to get those 18 to 19 marks without any challenge. That's something is the comfort that you expect when you're doing these kind of international examinations. Okay, so that's one comfort I wanted to kind of give you as we go along with this particular perspective. Say, for example, I'm fairly comfortable with this question and I want to jump on to the next question, which I come to here. Okay, it talks about another scenario. It says that you are the financial controller of Gamma, you are reporting the financial director or finance directors. One of your key roles is to prepare the draft financial statement for approval by the directors. You are currently preparing the draft. There are following exhibits, okay, given in the left hand side. I would look at probably this one just as a perspective. It says that there are some ethical issues here, okay, not something that we commonly study in accounting, but it talks about something on ethical issues, very much a part of my examination. Okay, it says that the finance director had discussed the preparation of financial statements for the year ended 30th September with you, cross 7 with you. He has requested you to measure the closing inventories at their anticipated selling price, and he suggests you may have to estimate an appropriate exchange rate. Okay. Now, why is saying that? He has stated that Gamma, which is the entity, of course, plans on paying a profit-related bonus to all employees for the year ended 30th September 7. I feel sure you agree with me that we need to report as healthy a profit as possible to ensure our efforts are rewarded with appropriate bonus. I will be very pleased if you comply with my suggestions. Now, your boss is telling you, please report higher profits because that is in the benefit or in the interest of all of us. Is there an ethical issue? The answer is very clearly there are a few ethical considerations that we need to make. There is a self-interest threat which comes into the picture. Okay, and ACCA does have a code of conduct, right? There are 5 broader principles. In such kind of questions, we need to understand what principles could be a single principle, it could be more than one principles also, that become applicable. Okay, and I have to really apply that principle in this scenario and try to give a response based on. Okay, let's try to do that briefly. Okay, before I really do that, I'm given that in my ethical issue. Okay, I need to look at my requirements first of all. Okay, it says that my requirement is, as far as third part is concerned, okay, it asks me that using the information, identify and explain the ethical issues confronting you with respect to the finance director, and the question is for 5 marks. Okay, so for 5 marks, I'm supposed to explain this to my examiner, and please bear it in mind, these 5 marks are necessarily tested in your examination. Out of the 100 marks, do expect a 5 marks question on ethical consideration. Okay, now my reason of bringing this point here is not to talk about just the ethical considerations, is one of the concepts, but importantly, when you look at your second, third and fourth questions, okay, your responses are not on an Excel sheet necessarily, because they do not always require a calculation. Okay, any calculations, we do have a spreadsheet option. Okay, but in case a theoretical question like this or a conceptual question like this, I will have to type my answer as a part of my responses. Okay, now we may argue, can't we type it on an Excel sheet? The answer is, please don't do that. You don't want to risk that, that part that your examiner has completely missed to pick your response there. So preferably do it like this. Now, the other thing that you want to remember, that I may have my part A covered here, part B covered here, and then part C, which is my ethical consideration covered here. Okay, so I can obviously have a comfort that I want to write this part first and then later the other 2 parts if I want to write them on. Okay, so in this case, what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to understand the requirement of the examination, and I'm trying to obviously kind of respond it as per the relevant concepts also. Okay, so ethical considerations, I may want to start with this a typical or a standard, response there. I would say the ACCA code of ethics. Okay, the ACCA code of ethics require all members and persons to follow those ethical principles. Okay, in the given scenario, I'm not expected to explain all those 5 scenarios or all those 5 code of conduct or principles. I'm just looking at what are those principles which are getting impacted or which are getting affected with the given scenario. So I would say in the given scenario, the principles of integrity and objectivity are affected. Very clearly, when I say I'm looking at integrity, I'm talking about do it right at all times. Okay, do it right at any point in time. There should not be any conflict. There should not be any, let's say, challenge with your objective versus the organization's objective here. So that's where, even though finance director is trying to emphasize that we need to reflect a higher profitability by showing the inventory, let's say, at a price higher than the or at its estimated selling price, as the question said, I need to be careful that I'm following that principle of integrity, that I'm not over reporting my numbers, because there is a self-interest element involved. Secondly, the element of, or the principle of objectivity is also affected, because here I have a direct interest, right? And there is a risk of being biased. Okay, there is a risk of being, let's say, subjective as far as the preparation of the financial statements are concerned. Okay, again, my objective is not to give you the answer as is, but the objective is to walk you through in terms of how does my window look like, or how does my examination window look like, and what is that format, what is that manner I should be understanding these particular online examination template or online examination format. Okay, all we want to remember, I think it would just keep on going, otherwise we don't want to really kind of solve all the questions or discuss them in detail. Importantly, what you want to remind yourself is your examination is essentially a 195 minutes exam, roughly 2 minutes per mark. Okay, so what you want to remember here is, if you are given a question of 25 marks, you should not be looking at spending more than 50 minutes at any point in time. Okay, up to 50 minutes you should be comfortable, but if it is expected to go beyond that, probably you are doing doing something very wrong from a time management perspective. So please be very much aligned to this fact. If I said that this question is for 5 marks, I'm not expected to spend more than 10 minutes of my time, including my reading time, including my, let's say, planning time or putting the notes, and obviously completing my answer as well. Okay, at any point in time, for all my questions, for each of my questions, I should be absolutely clear about it. What is that I'm writing, right? What is that I'm supposed to write? Should I, or do I really understand my question very well or not, is something people usually struggle when you look at any global examination. So invest your time looking at the question's requirement. Writing the answer is very precise. You don't have to write all the stuff that you know in the world, not even expected. Okay, you're not getting marks for that, put it simply. If you're not getting marks for something, why waste time on writing that stuff? Your investment should ideally be, if it were, let's say, a 5 marks question which gives me a 10 minutes of time, at least in principle I'm getting 10 minutes, I should be spending 3 to 4 minutes just reading it carefully and thinking what all I'm supposed to write. The remaining 5-6 minutes are absolutely sufficient to complete your answer and get the maximum marks out of this particular. Okay, so what do you want to remember? It's eventually a 200 minutes odd or 195 minutes precisely in examination. Your examination will be automatically submitted. It will, by the way, just as a final food for thought, 5 minutes prior to the examination, it will throw a reminder. Okay, so it tells you, look, only 5 minutes are remaining, so please be very clear about it. And a timer would keep on going on at any point in time. So you would always be aware how much time is left at any point in time. So please be comfortable. But I would really be looking at it, really be emphasizing, with my experience, people would normally not get very good marks in such kind of an examination because of a completely poor time management. If you have managed your time well, if you have really clearly identified or told yourself, look, I will not spend more than 50 minutes on any complete question of 25 marks. Believe me, the question is one of the easiest, simplest, and the most practical examination to be comfortably clearing about. Okay, we will be doing a lot of past exam questions. We'll be doing, obviously, these online based examination questions while we're doing this program. So please be aligned, please be comfortable, and reach out to us in case you have any questions, right? So this is where I wanted to kind of cover this particular online examination format for the Diploma IFRS by the ACCA. Wish you all the good luck with your preparation. Thank you very much.